Thank you, His Excellency, for giving time for this interview. I have been doing interview with His Excellency ambassadors to bring about the ideas and the views from different countries, especially on the changes and on what is happening in Myanmar. For example, today we begin a new parliament dominated by Nationally for Democracy. So how do you view the changes or the reforms that have taken place in the last 4 or 5 years?
Well, the last 4 or 5 years I have been posted here and I've seen lots of changes. I remember my first day in this country, I could not even connect to my internet. Now everybody runs around with a smartphone. But it's not only the technical hardware, it's the software that changed. First we had free by-elections, now we have had free and fair elections. And I think, well, there was a mandate for change, but for inclusive change. We never tried to tell the Myanmar people whom they should vote for. This is none of our business, but we made a small contribution to organize free and fair elections. It worked very well. And now there is a winner with a big mandate. And I think the first steps I can see, it's encouraging. As I mentioned, it's a mandate for change, but inclusive change. So we see the first nominations have been also included people from, let's say, the losing party and from some of the minority tribes in this country. So this is an encouraging start, I would say.
Germany and Myanmar have had very much long relationship. I think it was more than 50 years. And there have been good relationship over all these years, despite a short period because of 1988 movement, what has happened here in the country. How do you look at, when you look at those years of Myanmar relations? The reason I'm asking is, for example, there are military to military in terms of weapons trade between the two countries. So how do you look at all these years of Myanmar relations?
Well, Mr. Somient, first of all, we are older than you think. We're here for 62 years already with a diplomatic office. And the second, there's a simple fact: you can't run away from your history. So our history started in a different time. The first encounters during the colonial days, then soon after independence, the world was different. Yes, we had very close ties to Myanmar. We helped to build up industrial sector in this country. We were, I think, after Japan, the second biggest donor for development, but also quite substantial industrial and commercial partner. In the old days, until '88, we also had a close relationship with the military. We trained senior officers at our academy in Hamburg, and due to the somehow unfortunate developments after '88, there was a time where we had no more, let's say, official contacts, but we never went out. We always stayed with our embassy. We did what was possible during those days. And we continue, and since I am here, since 2011, gradually. First European sanctions had been suspended, then they had been done away, and we could build up again all our bilateral relations in business, in cultural, in other fields. And we consider relations to the military also very important, because the military is one of the key, let's say, pillars in this society, as a main factor also of stability to hold the country together. And we hope, step by step, to reconnect with our military relations. I hope that in the future we will have a defense attaché here. We don't have yet. I hope we can develop some programs. For example, there's one area where we can have a real substantial discussion is when we had unification of Germany over 25 years ago. We also had to rebuild our country, we had to rebuild our armed forces and to integrate completely different political systems. That is where we maybe politically we can make a contribution to this country.
When we talk of these bilateral ties, what is the role of education and culture, your policy on using these or strengthening these two areas with Myanmar?
Well, education has always been very important in our relationship here. We always provided scholarships. We have an alumni association, and there you will find the first. They started 50 over years ago. They are now senior ladies and gentlemen, and they still unite. We rebuild the scholarships, but it goes beyond scholarships. It's a two-way road. We have even the first students and lecturers coming to Myanmar. It's a real exchange. We have an exchange on the level of universities. There is still a way to go. This is complemented by the reopening of the Goethe Institute. It had been closed in '64, and only recently we could reopen. When the federal president came here, we are renovating promises in a very traditional historical building, and this is for cultural exchange. Let's say exchange, meaning also it's a platform for Myanmar filmmakers, for artists, painters, music to meet. But also Goethe offers training courses of language, and beyond that we try to reach out to the general public, meaning there are some projects about what we would call e-learning through TV or through new media to reach a wider audience, and especially also young people. And that's where we have also Deutsche Welle TV, who have a cooperation agreement here on the ground, and I think they can also make a major contribution here.
Yeah. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank you personally for your active support to Myanmar Journalism Institute, which I'm a part of that. And so that is a kind of, my understanding, there's a kind of your contribution, your support to the capacity building and on the human resources development here in the country. How do you view the skills development program of Germany in Myanmar? What are the kinds of areas where you are working for to increase skills, to promote skills in Myanmar?
Well, you just touched on the journalistic skills. Yes. I think this is a very growing program, very important, because you have now more or less freedom for the media, but you need also the skills to be a proper journalist. Next to this, we have the, let's say, in our development assistance portfolio, we focus on sustainable economic development. We concentrate on vocational training, both on the ground and in terms of curricula to advise the relevant ministries. We concentrate on small and medium enterprises. Again, our experts from GIZ, they advise the government for the legislation, but also we have some food on the ground, in this case in Taungji, Shan State, with some agriculture projects. So not about talking, but doing. I think this is also very helpful. And we have the third pillar that is financial assistance in financial training. The main objective is to create access for the smaller and medium industries to the financial market, to give the banks the skills our people published a small booklet with the basic notions and skills of the trade. For example, to explain what is a letter of credit and some basics of accountancy. I think this is really very practical. And in development, finally, we are reaching out now to the rural areas through building roads, important to connect people in remote areas, but also to start programs about rural electrification, let's say to contribute to basic infrastructure.
When you talk about the financial system, I would like to ask you a specific view. How do you view the reforms that has taken place in the financial sector, in the financial system, for example, in the banking system? How do you view it?
Well, first I think one has to say where you come from. When I first entered a bank here, this was still all cash, and the bookkeeping was done in the books. I didn't see a single computer. This changed gradually. The central bank became more independent, not independent, but more independent. And for the first time, you have now a more or less transparent budget that the general public can see, not only how you collect your money, but also how you spend your money. I think this is a big progress, especially also important to manage your natural resources. It's more transparent than it used to be before. By international standards, I think, to be honest, there is still a gap. Today's world is extremely connected, especially in banking. By a mouse click, you can go around the world. So here, I think there is still some training needed, but it's not only training. In the end, these are political decisions. How much independence you want to give your central institutions, how much competition you want to let in from a foreign side. It's a difficult mix. You have to decide. I think we as foreigners can only provide you, let's say, the skills, the tools, but the use of the tools for what political end has to be decided by the government of this country.
Yeah. I think we haven't seen the rush of German investors coming to Myanmar. What is needed to generate interest among the German investors to come to Myanmar?
To start on a good note, many people come and look. It's a bit of window shopping. When it comes to business proper, still not that many people really spend money on the ground and invest. Why? First of all, you have to see all the businessmen I know come here, they compare. What are the advantages or disadvantages of Myanmar in the context of the region? What is better here than in Malaysia, in Vietnam, Indonesia, and so on, or China even? Here are still some obstacles because you had a long time a more or less closed economy with still some leftovers, let's say some leftovers. The legal framework is not really satisfactory. Then there is a lot of bureaucracy. Procedures take very, very long, and in the end also the cost structure. For various reasons, it's not so much the salaries, but property. The cost of energy, the cost of bringing goods in and out. For example, if you go in real production, many pre-materials you can't buy here, you have to import. Then for those who decided to come here to produce, if they want to sell locally, you need a distribution license. Normally the foreigner doesn't get it. Only few people have a distribution license. This contributes to cost. And in a way, you have to look at the timing. You can't just do now what others did in the 60s or 70s. Let's say a neighbor like Thailand was more lucky. They industrialized at an earlier stage. The whole world was looking for cheap labor. Cheap labor, there's plenty nowadays. It's more about productivity. And we have new forms of production. Now we are in an age where, let's say, big data, the digitalization, translates somehow manufacturing. So this may affect the whole world in a way. Yeah? In the end, you have your data here and you can produce online somewhere, like print out or so. We still need labor, this country needs jobs, we try to contribute. There are still some industries on the good side also. Many of our peoples are producing here, are sourcing garment. Some of the big chains like people like Adidas, the sports shoes, or Chibo is a very big retail chain in Germany. They manufacture here, so we have quite some, but we hope for more.
So Myanmar can still be a destination for many of German investors in near future.
Sure, we hope, but you have to be. It's a, how should I put it? It's a beauty contest. It's a beauty contest. People compare with all the neighbors. What's better here? There are advantages in this country. Certainly, there is a market. There is a need for many products, from big infrastructure to consumer goods. There's a big market here. I tell everybody. But there is competition. There is competition, and we hope more international investors will follow. We hope that, let's say, administrative procedures can be cut short, and most of all, businessmen like security. They want to be sure what I signed today is still valid in 10 years. Stability. Stability is a catchword for business people. I think, there is a lot of hope now that the business climate will even improve, but it has to be done.
Yeah. What do you think of the draft EU-Myanmar Investment Protection Agreement?
A very simple answer. We need one. We need one because without investment protection agreement, you wouldn't get a major investment. It's as simple as that. It's as simple as that. I know some people have problems in accepting, for example, arbitration, but no substantial international venture would submit to local judiciary under the given circumstances. Yeah.
Germany was one of the very first countries in the Europe where the outgoing President U Thein Sein visited when he visited Europe. And Germany and Myanmar have had long history, including military to military. Do you have influence on Myanmar military on what is happening, especially reform process in the country?
Oh, we don't look for influence. We are foreign friends. We give advice only when we ask for advice. But of course, we also talk to the military. I talk personally to the commander-in-chief. We always encourage them to cooperate with the civil government in the framework of the national reconciliation. And I think what I can observe, the process in the moment goes quite smoothly. We advise both sides to compromise because in the longer run, I think, like every armed forces, Tatmadaw has every interest to modernize, to fulfill their true duty of protecting the country. And one of the, let's say, preconditions for a retreat to the barracks, I think, would be that we have a lasting peace, a lasting internal peace. This is one of the longest civil internal conflicts in the world here, and I hope that the next administration as one of the first priorities, can try to fix it. It will take time. We need strategic patience, but in the beginning of a process you also need leadership and direction.
Myanmar's agriculture is struggling, even though it is one of the main business economy in the country. What can we do together to build up, to strengthen, to support Myanmar's agriculture?
Well, there is most of the things, let's say, it's a national issue. Myanmar government has to do it. We don't interfere in questions of land ownership or legislation on this issue. But you should do more to upgrade production facilities, for example. From a foreign perspective, from my country, we have one or two, the first people came here, who look what we can buy here. Yeah? Whether it's fish or agriculture products. But if you buy here and export to Europe, you need to meet international standards in terms of quality and in terms of health. For that, it starts with the production. It starts with packing, with logistics to transport. I'm always, I wouldn't say shocked, but a bit sad when I go to a supermarket here and I see even simple products like chili. Most of it comes from other countries, although you can grow it in our own garden, we grow it. Yeah? It's apparently a problem of logistics and packing. So here a lot can be done. I think it's a big advantage of this country. You have a relatively small population compared to the size of the country. Most other countries, it's the other way around. They're overpopulated. Even big China has not much fertile areas for agriculture. Here you have. In principle, you should produce much more than you can eat, meaning you can sell to your neighbors. And many of the neighbors are not so advantaged. Next to the natural resources, I think this should be a big source to tap on.
What do you expect for China-Myanmar relations under the new government led by National League for Democracy?
Well, we continue. We hope that the good relations will further develop. We always offer our assistance, for example, in terms of development assistance. This will continue. This may increase, but our philosophy here is always on demand. We don't impose. Yeah? If the government asks, can you help us in this area or that area, we will always try whatever we can do within our means. We are more than happy. This goes from, for example, we are a federal state. There's a lot of talk about federalism in this country. There are different countries with federalism. There's federalism in Malaysia, there's in the United States. Well, we are ready also to show how our federalism works, what works well, what works not so well. So you can pick and choose and make your own plans and decisions. But here also we have something to offer in terms of politics, in terms of economic advice, because it's a new government coming, but it's still the same country and the same people. Don't underestimate.
You have been here since September 2011. So can you tell us what are the highlights of your stay so far?
Well, the biggest highlights, relatively simple, the visit of my president here in 2014. This was a major step for the relaunch of our relations. A second was a concert, an open-air concert by the most famous German rock group. This was the year before, in end of 2014.
Just last question. In terms of culture, how do you view Myanmar's culture? Just like generally speaking, like when you compare, because you have been to many countries, including Vietnam. How do you view? Is it one is culture itself, because there are different cultures as well. So how do you view Myanmar's culture? Just one last question.
Myanmar's culture is different from others. You find some ingredients you see in other places, including from the two big neighbors you have, but it's a special mix, it's original, it's different. It is different. I've been serving in many Asian countries. It has a genuine note. What is very, apart from the, let's say, more folkloristic aspects, there's a big diversity with all the ethnic groups in this country. But I think one thing goes for everybody, culture, somehow related also to religion, is quite deep, inside people. They don't care only about food, they care about culture. And this is very important. People read here. Whether they read online or in a book doesn't matter. They read, they debate. And I think this good culture was never really extinct, and it's going up now again.
Thank you, His Excellency, for your time and
Thank you so much.
for this interview.
Thank you.
Thank you.